All right, on this episode of Drawing with Julius, I am now going to do a complete sketch from top to bottom, and I will not come in the middle of my drawings talking about doing line work. I am actually going to do a sketch from the very beginning, from the creation, thought process, into completion. So in this picture, I am going to do Mickey and Minnie Mouse. Now, I must warn you, I am not really as good as I would like to be with Mickey and Minnie Mouse, but I want to challenge myself and actually do something a little bit different. I want to actually complete a picture of Mickey and Minnie Mouse together, which I have yet to have done until this time right here. So now I am starting my scratch work here, and I always like to start with the first layer with a little bit of blue, kind of like the blueprint. And that will help me go as far as what I need to do next. So a lot of times you see Mickey and Minnie together, they do like these little cute poses, and them looking at each other all loving and tenderly and everything. So I am going to attempt to do the same thing. So now I've got Minnie's face drawn, and now I'm doing Mickey's face, and he's giving her those loving eyes as he always does. Let's be honest. Would you ever imagine Mickey stepping out on Minnie? Nah, I don't think that would ever happen. But these cartoon characters has set a standard in cartoon relationships. And be quite honest, I wish Popeye and Olive would do the same thing, because she turns her back on him quite a bit. But let's get back to this drawing here. And now I decided, let's do like a holding hand pose here. And, something nice, something wonderful looking. And I actually like this pose. And what I plan on doing now is just making some adjustments here. I want to round off his head a little bit more and work on the ears and his head, because Mickey and Minnie both have more of a circular shaped head. And now I'm going to finish, just getting everything together as far as the design of stuff is concerned on the scratch work here. And, from time to time, you'll make some mistakes and you can make some adjustments here and there. Like right now, I am just making, adjustments on her legs and just drawing it out here. Now, I've told y'all guys about the stabilizer tool before, but I am not using the stabilizer tool so far because this is just the sketch part. I'm not worrying about how straight my lines are. I just want to go ahead and get this scratch work done so I can get everything going here. And I had an idea about how to do the legs, but I decided to change my mind midway in the design here. So as you can see, I changed it up a little bit. And now I'm getting ready to draw these shoes here on Mickey. Now, as you can see, a lot of times when it comes to these characters, they have really big feet. And I did not want my feet to run off the page, so I wanted to make sure everything looked decent. And I detached and actually readjusted his head and just make sure everything was in order. Now, I, adjusted her legs and readjusted the picture, and I'm now doing the line work on a different layer. I've said before that when you do these pictures, make sure that you have many layers set up, and you can also have them labeled so that way you don't get them mixed up when it comes to coming back to save work. Here I am doing a hard outline of the picture first, because I want to see exactly how I'm going to do my line work on the inside of this picture once I finish the hard outline. Now, when it comes to line work, it can be very rewarding if you know exactly what you need to do, and you can adjust the pressure on your pencil when it comes to using Sketchbook Pro. And that way you'll be able to adjust your lines and make them as thick or as thin as possible, so that way it won't ruin the picture. Now, I'm going to thin out this tail a little bit because it doesn't need to be that thick. And I'm finishing the outline here on this picture. Learned my lesson on the other tail, so I realized exactly what I need to do. Now, I am adjusting my lines here, and I'm making my lines a little bit thinner but thick at certain areas so I can have a distinct look between each of the lines. And so far, I actually like how this picture is turning out. I know I've complained about how I did not like how my Mickey and Minnie pictures come out sometimes, but I like it so far. And let's just work on a little bit of details here. The eyelashes. Now, these two, as I mentioned before, set the standards on relationships in cartoons. You will never imagine Mickey doing something dirty as far as stepping out on Minnie, because he seems so devoted to her. And I like that because that what brings the innocence of these cartoons back. Teaching meaningful relationships. Having a hard time with these eyes here, but just making my adjustments as I go along here. And I'm finishing up my line work. And what I love about the stabilizer tool that I'm using now is, if I am, stepping out of line a little bit, it helps me stabilize the design the way I want to. And it just works. And now, getting ready to start doing this flat panel here. And normally, Mickey and Minnie's ears and eyes are black, but I am going to start with a charcoal gray because I am doing a flat color panel. And I am going to take black on an overlay or a multiply layer and just fill in and make it look more distinguished. So right now I'm not using black, I'm actually using charcoal gray to do the undertone on this flat panel here. Now, what I do like to do is when I have a certain mass amount of area the same color, I usually use my lasso tool and grab each part that's the same color and then use my paint bucket option to dump and make the actual color more solid, which I'm about to do that. And as you can see, I'm rushing a little bit here, and you see a little bit of color outside the line. And I just now did my paint bucket option, and I am erasing the little extra stuff on the outside so I can clean up my picture a little bit here. I don't want it looking jagged looking. And I'm coloring certain aspects, like the inside the mouth and everything. And now I'm using a basic flat color, more like sand. And then I decided to do this and make sure I get it done on a transparent background because I want to make sure that I get everything, because I was using a white background to color everything before. But now I want to make sure that I get every space possible. I don't want to see any gaps in my picture when it comes to coloring. And normally I would use the lasso tool to highlight certain areas and dump paint in it, just like I did with the body. But this time I'm actually going to take my time in color and make sure that I get everything going. I'm coloring the eyes now. And, while I got my white out, I might as well color not only his eyes, but hit up the dots on his pants and hit up both sets of gloves here. And I make sure that I am very particular on how I color. I do short strokes. That way I make sure that I get every space because I don't want to miss anything. And coloring the tongue here. When you got multiple parts of the body that is the same color, you might as well just go ahead and color every bit that is that same color. So that way you don't have to come back and do it later. And I'm still working on the flat panel, but I decided to go with hot pink. You know, usually when it comes to Minnie, she always have different options of dresses. But in this particular case, I wanted to do a solid color this time instead of just doing the dresses that normally have the white polka dots on, just like she is at the parks. I want to do something a little bit different. So, something that's really more her speed, something that you would normally see her on a lot of these stickers and coloring books and everything. And I actually had an idea about wanting to do a coloring book. I don't know, chat. Do you think I should do a coloring book? Making my own characters? I don't know. Put it in the comments. Let me know something. So now I'm coloring these ridiculously big shoes. Oh my goodness. There is a lot of shoes to cover here. But I am making my solid color here. I am using the pencil option and taking my time and just coloring it, you know. Not necessarily doing a rush job this time because I want to make sure that I do it right. And while I'm keeping my background transparent, this really helps let you know if you're covering ground or not, if you're like covering all your bases. Now I am on my multiply layer and I am now adding my black. So that way I can use my blending brush to blend it out and make it look like it is blending into the skin a little bit more. And I don't color every piece solid black. I just color certain spots that's going to help me distinguish the type of details that I want here. And now what I like to do is I like to put all of this in first before I come in with my blending brush and just blend everything out and make sure it looks smooth. Looks kind of rough right now, but I promise you there is an ends to the means. So a lot of shade and a lot of shadow there because it's under them. So I'll make sure I put a lot of color there on my multiply layer. You know, just working with the bow as well. And now I take my brush and I'm smoothing everything out here. And you see how it smooths out? And I love it. I love it. I love this brush. But sometimes your brush can smooth out a lot and you won't be able to tell the difference. And I had to make an adjustment to my pencil in order to make sure that the right amount faded out, not the whole thing being gone at one time. And I just love how this is coming out. And I'm adding some more color, you know, just add some distinct looks towards the gloves and stuff. And now I'm taking my blending brush and just blending the gray. And now I'm adding more color to the face because this is what I just love, how this multiply layer really add emphasis. So now I'm going to take my blending brush and I'm going to blend it out. And it looks like their normal, you know, color that they have on cartoons, right? So now I am going to my screen layer and adding my light sources to different areas here. And as you can see, I'm adding a little bit of light there so I can have some distinguished looks. And I'm putting my details to the eyes and the nose. A little bit of a light source there. And adding to the shoes. And I've now got my blending brush. And I'm going to get everything going here as far as the light source is concerned. And I like how that light is reflecting off after I blend. It looks really good. And now I'm adding my shadow undertone here. And I take my opacity and make my adjustments in my blending brush and make sure that the shadow looks smooth. Just making a little bit of adjustments here. And make sure you sign your work when you're done.